We at Hierarchy Medicine understand that although people think of health as a simple problem and solution, it's actually quite complex and multidimensional. Elements of our lives, like diet, environment, relationships, and even our emotions, contribute to our overall health. Our goal is to present these complex relationships combined with human physiology in simple language so that you can immediately begin your personal journey toward optimal health. Welcome back to the Hierarchy Medicine podcast. We don't know everything about everything. Today, I'm happy to bring back Dr. Ethan Lee, CEO of Hierarchy Medicine. Hey, Ethan. Thanks for coming back. It's good to have you again.
Glad to be back.
We're going to continue on from where we kind of left off last time. We introduced this concept of motivation being a byproduct of biochemistry, specifically blood sugar, which I think was a really big deal. And then we talked a little bit more about how to use carbs and fueling properly. And Hierarchy Medicine, your guys' sort of brand is foundation first, optimal health always. And I wanted to kind of lean into some of that, but still staying within the realm of blood sugar and how it affects our overall health and how to move forward with that. How's that sound?
That sounds good.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great.
But before we start, usually you are the one that's asking me the first question.
Yeah.
But I would like to ask you a question first.
Oh, okay.
And I think it's important because today's topic is surrounding about this new health concept on building health, right? And for you, a couple decades ago when you start practicing, you're mainly taking care of people that are injured. But after some years, you decide to completely change how you practice. You change the whole model, change it from just doing symptom management and symptom care to building health for people. And I think this is a new concept and not too many people understand the difference between just taking care of the symptom or helping someone with health building. Can you kind of help us understand why you made that decision and what do you see?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I love how you just turn the tables on me like that. Okay, so where it all started was it kind of all stems from frustration, right? Any doctor who has been in practice for any amount of time will tell you the same thing. The number one problem in healthcare is compliance, is having people do what you ask them to do, okay? But from a doctor's perspective, what I found is the most frustrating is how you're not actually getting people better. And what I mean by that is most of the time people come and see you because they have a problem. And if they don't have a problem, they don't come and see you. Okay? That's how the system is built. And the problem is usually some type of pain or suffering. So let's take the example of I see someone who has knee pain, okay? And then I evaluate them and we would treat them. And then what would happen is pain gets better, okay? So however long it takes, whatever the protocol is, for this example is irrelevant. What is relevant is they got better, okay? But at the end of the time that we spent with them and they got better, when they leave our care, because they don't have knee pain anymore, they're not any healthier than when they showed up, okay? So they're just as unhealthy as when they started, assuming they're at some level of health, but they don't have knee pain anymore, okay? And that's true for pretty much everything, right? So no matter what reason you go to see a doctor, you're not any healthier at the end of that engagement. And that's the primary frustration. And that's what started to change our thinking was, why are we not getting people any healthier? Because if we do get them healthier, then they don't need to come see us as often. Right? Or they see us for a completely different set of reasons, which we won't get into today, but I think it is part of why the Hierarchy Medicine model aligns so well, is this idea of optimizing health.
So pretty much you're saying that a lot of people, they will misunderstand no pain as healthier, right?
Right.
Because they come in with pain, they think if I only get a little better, that's an improvement. But on top of just pain, there are a lot of things you can do for your client.
Absolutely.
I see.
Okay, so that was a good kind of twist of events. So let me get back to my role. Often heard you comment on this concept of when people get their motivation back and they start to normalize or stabilize the biochemistry, you talk about this concept of space. Can you kind of expand on that for us?
So before we get into that, let's first talk about the concept of absence of space. And when we're talking about space, we need to first understand a couple ideas we talked about before on how brain is hijacked by sugar,
Right.
and the biochemistry is shifted. Now, your body's two areas of your brain, the thinking part of your brain and the survival part of your brain, it's imbalanced, right? So sugar create this strong addiction, and it's more than just when you want sugar, you want a cup of soda. I'm going to use this research to kind of demonstrate how addictive it actually is. So there's a research that's been done where they put a bunch of mice in a box and then they give them two substances to choose from. One is canned sugar. The other is cocaine, okay? And by the end of the visit, most of the mice choose sugar over cocaine.
Oh, so drug addict mice are choosing sugar over cocaine?
Yes, and there's more. So we do this exercise one more time. Now they have all these mice to get hooked on cocaine first. So they're already addicted.
Oh, so they really were drug addicts.
And yeah, and they put it into the same box again. They still choose sugar over cocaine.
Now, that gives us an understanding of how impactful sugar is on our reward centers.
Yes.
Right? Okay.
And that's associated with the survival brain. We're talking about the limbic cortex, which is more associated with reward circuit and negative emotions like fear and anxiousness. So when you feel these negative emotions, your brain tells you just to go get a simple relief. That's why when sugar is controlling your brain, it's harder to break that cycle. So your mental space is reduced.
Oh, okay. I understand.
Because now you can't have as much access to the prefrontal cortex, the thinking part of your brain, which is associated with emotion regulation, impulse control, and long-term planning.
Okay. So when you say space, it's literally brain's ability to create some space between I need some kind of reward now, and that's the amount of time you have to reward yourself, versus once that's sorted out, now I have space to go, oh, I don't need that now. And then you can ask different questions.
Yes,
I see.
that's right.
That's incredible.
Yeah. And when your survival brain is dominating your biochemistry, you're in a state of what we call a fear-based living. You're just reacting to life. You're just trying to get by. So a lot of people, when you ask them, what are they gonna do in summer? They have no idea. They're just trying to get by the month, the week, even the day, right? So you're unable to access that thinking part, that long-term thinking portion of your brain. You're not able to plan ahead of the time, right? But if you're having more of the thinking part of your brain activated, then you're in what we call a vision-based living. Instead of just reacting to negative things, fear and anxieties, you are actually planning out and figure out a way and a solution to work with those emotions.
I see.
Let's try this exercise. So I'm gonna have you and the audience to try to think about one of the health issue that's been bothering you, and something that keep coming up in your life. It can
I'm
be
perfect. I don't have anything.
Oh, really?
Okay.
That's probably one of the problems.
Right. Exactly.
So something like your knee pain, a headache, or a GI problem, anything.
Okay.
Right? So for me, I'm gonna just use fatigue, low energy. Okay, so think about this problem and usually go back to the last time when this problem start to bother you? Right? What is something that bothers you?
My knee.
Your knee pain. Okay. So think about the last time that knee pain bothers you.
Yeah.
What question were you asking yourself in your mind?
What did I do to make this happen?
What do you do?
What am I going to do to make it better? Frustrated at the things I can't do because my knee is bothering me. Yeah, stuff like that.
So a couple things like that. And sometimes people even spiral down into, why me? Right? Or like you must see some people work out in a really wrong way. You wonder why they don't have the knee pain, but you, right? So all this thinking, usually when we're in pain or discomfort, we're staying in that survival brain. So now I'm gonna invite you and the audience to introduce a new way of thinking. Try to use our thinking brain to face the problem that's been bothering us. So this question will be, for me, is fatigue and low energy. It will be, what do I want to do when I no longer feel tired? What do I want to achieve in my life when this is no longer a problem? What do you want to do when you no longer have your knee pain?
I see. So you're helping us actually activate that long-term vision thinking and then creating that space for us by asking this kind of question, which is completely different from what's in my head. Right?
Yes.
Yeah, you're right.
Because if you think about it, let's say your brain chemistry is really imbalanced. So you're only using your limbic brain.
Yeah.
But now, let's say you through healthy habits, you're eating healthier, you're exercising, you start to be able to activate the different part of your brain. But you have to train it.
Right.
You have to have that mindset change to start to increase the firing of those neurons so you can think differently. You give your health a purpose for you to feel better, right? And that completely changed the game.
You're right, because every time my knee bothers me, I get frustrated, I get angry, and then all I can think about is this dumb knee pain that I have to
blame
deal
your own
with.
body.
Yeah,
Yes.
right.
Yes.
And I am not thinking about, once this goes away, these are all the great things I'm going to do. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so you're right, that does take a completely mental shift.
Yeah, and if you think about athletes too, a lot of athletes when they run, right, they're gonna have pains and aches from training and inflammation, but they're single focus on one goal. A lot of time they're able to push through those pain. Not saying that that's what everyone should do, but it showcases how important mindset change can actually create a physical change.
And do you feel like simple questions like this is the first step in trying to change that mindset? Because don't we have certain biases and prejudices about things related to health? Because I've heard you talk in the past about this idea of aging and how people just automatically accept the health decline associated with aging. And this sounds like something that relates to that, how we can change this idea or bias around aging by thinking about, well, what would I do? What am I going to do so that I'm not that person at 70 or 75?
I see. So what you're talking about is a condition, is how as human beings, when we are born, we're educated by this society that aging equals to decline.
Right.
Right? So we think when we age, some random thing is going to happen to me, right? Let's say osteoporosis, right? It's most commonly happen when you're 50s. So we think when you lose density of your bone, it must be because I'm older, I'm aging. Even though we found out that there are some young adults in their 20s get osteoporosis,
Right.
and some people in their 70s don't have it.
Don't get it, right?
But now we know that, the physiology is that when your body have a problem with calcium balancing with your bone and your muscles and your internal balance, you're gonna get less calcium in your bone, you're gonna have less density. So that's associated with stress, that's associated with your stress coping hormone, the cortisol. But we don't quite get that because in the common medical practice, we don't educate that. And another example will be all kinds of degenerative joint disease. And because of the word degenerative, we think it happens throughout time.
Right.
But most people don't know that a lot of teenagers get degenerative joint disease. Whereas a lot of people in their 60s and 70s, like you said, they don't have it. But our brain, because most people are stuck in this survival mode, we automatically exclude those data. We think those people are exceptions. But we see people in their 70s, 80s, when they're athletic, when they're doing different kind of sport, when they're traveling, we think those are outliers.
Right.
We automatically think that when we are 65, we're not going to be that person. We see those people as exceptions. We don't see them as potentials.
Okay. So rather than plan to be those outliers and normalizing that, we have accepted this short-term idea of, oh, we're going to just fall into the degenerative decline over time, and by the time I'm 75, I'll be lucky if I'm walking up and down the stairs.
Yeah, and that's unfortunately how a lot of people are thinking. I can't tell you how many times you must have the same thing. A patient comes into your office and say, "Doctor, my left shoulder hurts," and you ask them, "What do you do with your left shoulder? Anything happen?" They say, "No, I'm not doing anything with my left shoulder. I'm not even left-handed." And you realize, hey, that might be the problem because you're not doing anything for your shoulder, right? Joints are supposed to be moving. You're supposed to use your shoulder. You need to learn how to use your body. And on top of just the social kind of conditioning scenario I was talking to you about, I'm from Asia, right? And when I was born, there is this concept of you don't want your grandparents to move too much. And then when people get older, you want them to rest, right? You want to bring tea to your grandparents, you want to do chores, so they don't encourage movement in elder people. That's also why you see in the Asian country, most elders are not athletic. So it's a misconception on what health is. Health is not about don't use your body at all and just sit here and use minimum effort to trying to keep yourself healthy. You need to actually move right. You need to actually think right. You need to eat right, and that's just take time for you to learn, to access that different part of your brain to plan out your life. Where do you want to be when you're 50s? Where do you want to be when you're 60s? Do you want to play catch with your grandkids? Do you want to run with you got to be able to run and play catch when you're 40s.
Right.
Otherwise you can't do it at your 50s, right? So that is the concept. When we access a different part of our brain, you're able to think longer. Then it's no longer just, today I can't run because my left knee hurts. I wish it's not there. And I do the same thing. I keep sitting and watch TV and don't do any effort about it. So that's how we need to dramatically change how we view health. To go back to the concept of symptom management, pain or no pain, or building health to maximize our potential to grow.
I love it. I love it. So let me get this straight, because I love what you said. Basically, by helping retrain my brain and the way I'm thinking, you are creating this sense of empowerment for me. So now I get to do the things and plan for being an outlier when I'm 75, right? I'm the one that's going to be out playing catch, skiing with my grandchildren, maybe great-grandchildren. So essentially, I get to serve as a role model for my friends and my family, and maybe even the next generation by adopting these habits and changing my thinking. Right? Now, I'm sure people are going to be like, well, how do I do this? Like, how do I accelerate this, right? Do you have any tips for what we can do?
I think before we talk about how to become a role model, it's important to talk about, again, we go back to purpose, right? What are the goals you set for yourself? Because only by then you can become a role model by becoming who you want to become, right? Most people think about purpose, this word, as something spiritual, right? It's some kind of esoteric science that if you have it, great. If you don't have it, who knows what it affects. But there's actually tons of research done on purpose and how purpose is related to health and mortality. How long longevity. So there are a lot of papers they are talking about when you have a higher purpose in life, you have less risk of developing cardiovascular disease, and you have lower decline on your cognitive function, leads to lower rate of Alzheimer's disease. But how they measure it is the problem. How do you measure someone's purpose? How do you measure someone's fulfillment? Right? So in one specific research, they created this psychological well-being questionnaire, and it got a lot of questions like, I know where I'm going to be in the next 5 years, and you circle out, I strongly disagree from 0, or I strongly agree. Like, do you know what do you usually plan on your week? A set of psychological questionnaire to assess 9,000 people at their age. I forgot the exact number, but I think it's around 55 to 65, right? And they do this research for 10 years of duration. Okay, so after they track those people for 10 years, they realize that people who have a lower score on this purpose questionnaire have a mortality rate of 29%. So 1/3 of them pass away in this duration of 10 years.
So the people who have lower sense of purpose were more likely to die.
At 29%. I mean, people pass away because this is a questionnaire they track it for 10 years.
Sure.
But people who score higher got a mortality rate of 9%.
Oh,
They still pass away, right? But 3 times lower.
3 times lower.
Right, so this shows that like having a sense of purpose, know where you're gonna go, plan out your life, affect your body physically and physiologically. Right, so it's not just some woo-woo thing, some left field thing that people don't know. Right? It's just right. What is it? It's not a spirituality. It's actual science. So that is the first thing you need to understand. You need to create a goal for your life, so you know where you're going, right? And through that process, you slowly become a role model.
I see.
Yeah, and I think there's also this observation that when you start to change your life, right? When you start to adapt newer, healthier habit, eat healthier, move healthier, think healthier, without saying a word, people around you start to feel it, and they start to sense something's different, right? Because that energy will shift relationship, and eventually they start to change. Of course, people who don't agree or don't have the same frequency, they leave you, right? But people who stay start to get affected by you.
Yeah, you're right. You just become a walking billboard, basically.
Yeah, and that happens all the time. A lot of people start to exercise because their friends start to exercise. And a lot of people start to eat healthier because their partners start to eat healthier, right? So this concept of empowerment, it's contagious in a good way. It spreads. So when you grow, people around you start to grow with you too. And that is, I think, what the role model effect comes in. It happens naturally when you focus on yourself instead of trying to force it to happen, to have people to become who you are.
Well, I think that's a really powerful message, and that's where we're going to leave it today so people can percolate on that. Thanks again for spending time with us. It's been a super interesting conversation today.
Thank you.